this video, I'm gonna show you how to create these gorgeous oak looks. If I can get this to look like one of these, I'll be a happy woman. So stick with me. I'm gonna show you how I did this on this piece. Finally, we have come to the end of this project. I actually built this from scratch, and all I did was upcycle some legs that I got from the salvage shop, took some red oak and built a vanity. So it's taken me several weeks to actually figure out how to finish the vanity. So in this video, I'm actually going to show you how I created this look. There's a full blog post that goes with this. If you want the tutorial, you can click down there in the description box and get the detailed tutorial. So the first thing that I want to do is to actually remove the doors, because I'm just going to work on the body first, and I'll work on these on a flat surface. I'm going to mark the back of the drawers just so I know which one goes into which space. This is left top. So now that I've taken out the drawers, the cabinet doors are off, now I'm ready to apply water. This is distilled water, and I'm just going to coat the vanity, wipe it down, and then let it dry. The reason why I want to put water is because before we put a water-based dye, we need to raise the grain of this red oak. Anytime water touches wood, especially red oak and woods that have open pores, it's going to make them expand, right? So we don't want that to happen once we put the dye onto the vanity. We want that to happen before we apply the dye. Now, the reason that I want to use distilled water is because I don't want anything in tap water to interrupt with the process going on here. So I can already start to feel the wood getting fuzzy, and that's exactly what we want it to do, because we would rather the wood get fuzzy before we put on our wood dye than after. So we're all done wiping this down. We're going to let this dry for about an hour. We're going to come back after we go do some other work, and this should be dry, and then we're ready to sand. But already I can see the roughness starting to appear on the doors that we did just, what, 20 minutes ago. Okay, so the vanity has had time to dry. When I feel it, I can actually feel how rough it is. Like, this needs to be sanded down. So now that the grain is raised, we can sand it back down. When we put the water-based dye on top, it's not going to raise the grain very much. And that's good, because when we put the water-based dye on it, we don't want it to have that fuzzy feeling. We're going to start with 150 grit sandpaper. And I just have a sheet here. I'm going to just fold it into quarters. And here's a little tip. I'm going to take my pencil and I'm just going to write on the vanity. And the reason why I'm going to do this is because once I start to sand, once this pencil mark is gone, then I know that I can switch to the 180. So now that I've already done the first pass with the 150 grit, now what I'm going to do is take my pencil and go over it again, and we're going to sand it down with the 180 grit sanding block. All right, back to sanding. I'm totally going to have to wash my hair tonight. So I'm done sanding, and that was a bigger job than I expected. And I don't know why I decided to do it in my bathroom. The vanity, of course, I can't move, but there was no reason I didn't sand these in my workshop. So I have dust all over the place and all over me. So I'm gonna vacuum this stuff up, wipe these off with a clean towel, and then we are going to put stain on this vanity. Well, dye, stain dye. Dye, stain, yes, that's what we're going to put on here. And I'm just so hoping that I don't ruin this. All right, let's clean up. All right, so it's day 2 of this vanity finishing project. We've gone through step 1, which was putting the water onto the vanity to raise the grain. We went through step 2, which was sanding down that grain back to where it belongs. And now we're ready for step 3, which is just cleaning it out. So all of the sanding created dust everywhere. And there's also dust that's trapped in the grain and the pores of this vanity. So I've just got this little bristle brush here. It's a wire brush, and I'm just going to go over the vanity and make sure that all that dust is not settled into the grain, because I don't want it to be in the grain. So I'll probably get the vacuum and just vacuum up, you know, along the edges, just to make sure there's nothing left. But if you see, there's a lot of dust that's still on here. So I just want to take a clean towel, wipe it away. So I'm not sure exactly how much you guys have seen. My battery died, so I apologize if you have not seen all of the process. But where I left off is I was trying to put some stain on the legs, and you notice that the legs are a different color than the vanity. It's not the same oak. These are salvage legs from a salvage shop, and it's just not the same, so it's not going to dye the same. But what I'm doing is adding a little bit of water, and if I go over the legs, I should be able to lighten the color a little bit. It's not going to be the exact same, but that's okay. And I'm going to want to tape off inside of the vanity so that I don't get any dye on the inside. Plywood. All right, let's start at the top. All right guys, so we have added 1 coat of dye to the vanity, and I really love it. So typically what happens when you're working with wood stains and dyes, the ends of the board are going to suck up stain and dye much faster than the face of the board. If I put some dye here, it's going to suck it up, but it's not going to look as dark as this. So we don't want this happening to our boards, but we don't want that dye sucking up darker into this edge. So we're going to make a glue size, which is taking 1/2 glue, 1/2 water, and we're going to apply it just to the edges of the board here to make sure that it doesn't suck up more stain or more dye than the face of the board. All right, so that's all that we can do today. We have put glue size on the ends of the board, and we finished the vanity. Later, once the glue dries, I'll come back, I'll put a coat of dye on the vanity doors and on the drawer fronts. But for now, it's a beautiful day, and we're gonna go out and have fun, and I'll come back for the next step. All right, so now we're gonna put some dye on the front of this cabinet door, and I'm gonna save the sides and the top part and bottom part for last. Let's just do the front first. So you'll notice, because we put that glue size on the top, we shouldn't see a huge discoloration. It might be a little darker, but it's not going to be as black as it was if we hadn't used that glue size. So that helped to prevent some of that color from soaking in. Now we're going to do each of the cabinet drawer fronts. So it's been a day since everything's had a chance to dry. We're going to go over it again with a second coat of dye, and then we're going to let it dry another 24 hours. Okay, so now that we've gotten 2 coats on the cabinet doors and the drawer fronts, we have a little bit of dye left to do another coat on the vanity base. I'm just hoping that this is going to be enough, because if it's not, we gonna be in trouble because I don't have any more dye left. This is it. We got to make it stretch. So you have reached the end of part 1 of how to finish oak, but don't worry, we're not done yet. So in part 2, I'm going to show you how to add sanding sealer to seal in the wood dye, along with how to accent the green with white to create this gorgeous look on the vanity. And remember, if you enjoyed this tutorial, give it a thumbs up, be sure to subscribe, and if you're looking for the materials list, go ahead and click that link in the description box. So I'll see you in part 2.